Hey guys, Tbull here. Today I got to look at the new campaign reward ship, Siegfried Tier 7 German Cruiser. Super Cruiser? I don't know what it is. Some sort of cruiser. Hipper on the screen there. If you don't have the Hipper, it's essentially a Von Mueller build. It just has twist and track, which you don't have on slot 1. Check out the armor profile. 356 millimeter lower, it can ricochet with that nose. Looking up and down the battleships of Tier 7, that includes Odin, and that's it. Right off the bat, I got a couple of rippers here just so we can see some of what these guns are capable of. The game I'm featuring is more of a positional play, which I think, if you're trying to learn how to become better at the game, I think positional play is better than just highlighting raw damage. But, these are a couple shots that this ship's capable of. So do not sleep when the Siegfried's shooting at you. You need to be taking care of the ship. But getting back to the armor scheme, it's pretty easy to take care of the ship. It can't angle against essentially any Tier 7 battleship, and most Tier 6 battleships, it can't angle against them either. You got a 2 or 3 Tier 6s, again, just the Odin at Tier 7, and Legendary Tier, forget about it. You're going to get slapped around by all those. So this is, it's got a battleship feel due to the guns. And these are essentially Bismarck guns in terms of caliber, in terms of performance, damage, but accuracy. I think, it seems more accurate than the Alaska, more accurate than the Azuma. This is early impressions video. If you're new to the channel, I play about 10 games when we get these new ships. Then I give a quick look at it just so you guys can see what we're dealing with. But in that little short span I've had with the ship, it seems more accurate than those quote-unquote super cruisers that the Alaska and the Azuma are classified as. So whether or not that's 100% the case or not, I don't know. But definitely compared to the Bismarck, hyper accurate. So you got really nice offensive output with this thing, but defensively, you got to be very careful. This is a positional man's cruiser. You can't be taking shots with this. Once the battleship starts shooting at you, you're going to have a hard time. So when I first got the ship, I saw what it was. I looked at the armor scheme right away. And just because usually that's one of the more interesting aspects of the German lines, I was like, what is this thing, A little confused, a little annoyed almost, just thinking this might have been the throwaway campaign, maybe they're really focused on the aircraft carriers and they're just going to pump this ship out. So I wasn't really that pumped about it until I actually, got into the 3, 4, 5 game range and started to see the offensive potential. And I haven't even, this is probably the least damage that I've done out of any of the games. But I haven't had any real barn burners yet in terms of damage, but I know it's capable of doing it just because some of these shots you're going to see with the ship. Very dangerous. So anyway, like we talked about, 380 caliber guns. You got 3x2 turrets. Note the HP, 55,000. Probably about 10,000. Looks like 10,000 higher than the next highest cruiser at Tier 7. So you got a lot of HP. Tankiness. The nose armor, like we mentioned, the stern armor, not great, but the sides, very strong. If you go back to that armor view, or if you remember, very deep red on the side. So I'm looking at this armor view before I started really playing the ship, and I'm starting to think like World of Tanks, those of you that have played that, the side scraping, where they had the tanks that were really heavily armored on the sides. You can kind of, I'm imagining sticking the nose into like an island here, protecting that weak nose armor, and then just kind of backing out and sticking the side out and absorbing incoming shots into the side. So I think that's an interesting tactic. I've only tried it once and it really didn't work just due to how the enemy positioned. But anyone who's tried the tactic, or let me know what you think of that one. I think it's pretty interesting. But those are kind of the keys. Maneuverability, not bad. We're just shy of 35 knots in the water. Big turn circle, 880. Rudder chef, pretty onerous, 10.1 on my builds. Concealment, nothing to write home about. We're on the higher end of the spectrum there. Sonar, I do want to point out, you do have the identical sonar to the Hipper. So you got the really strong Tier 7 German Cruiser sonar. In my mind, I don't envision this being quite as frontline as the Hipper or the Prince Eugene. I think those ships are a little bit more survivable just with the combination of the mobility and the armor schemes. Whereas, Armor-wise, this might be just slightly stronger, but the mobility drops off a bit. So I think those ships a little bit more survivable. I think the torpedo firing angles might be a little bit better. Maybe I'm imagining things there, but just in my mind, again, early impressions, I don't imagine this thing being a frontline brawler, but if you do get rushed, the torpedoes are capable. So overall, we got a pretty interesting package. Again, I think you got to play the ship pretty carefully, but if you can get in those positions where you can fire from cover or you're taking shots that aren't being returned by the enemy, then you're a problem. But jumping into this match here, you can see we've been playing we were in the center spawn. We've been playing just north of what I would consider the center of the map. But as we're getting kind of pushed around, you can see this flank here on the east. Enemies advancing. We're trying to slow them down as much as possible, taking some shots, decent shots. We're getting about 10K, 7K, I think will be the next salvo on that Massachusetts. But these are battleship-esque shots, so again, I think this is a pretty strong ship. It's a ship you got to respect in terms of, when you're evaluating who do I angle against. I think the Siegfried might have to be a high priority ship. It's not, again, the biggest caliber guns. It's not the hardest hitting caliber guns in the game, but if you combine the accuracy and if you're keeping an eye on these salvos, you're probably noticing for what you would consider, battleship type guns, these are pretty dang accurate. So you got to respect the Siegfried. We're going to be wigging out a little bit on the radio here. Note what the destroyer has been like sitting next to B, and then I think he sailed through it. There's no sugarcoating it. I'm done trying to respect these players. This is just bad destroyer play. If you happen to be the player that was in that destroyer, luckily in this case, it's a very easily rectifiable mistake, but you keep making it over and over in this game. All you got to do is just get on the cap and stay on the cap. Don't park 2 meters away from the cap, drop anchor, and then do whatever the heck you think you're doing. Don't capture 80% of the cap and then sail through it just because you're getting a little bit bored or whatever. I have no idea what the decision making is, but just capture the caps. Domination mode game, especially cap control, is how you win the game. So this almost became one of the hundreds and hundreds of games that I've lost just due to the fact that teammates do not respect the importance of capping. But luckily, he gets on the cap here. And at this point in time, I'm getting a little frustrated. I dropped Spot from that Cleveland. He actually had 2 salvos in the air, which both hit us. But I saw my screen out of the corner of my eye when I was looking at the map, my detection drop off. And then we got hit twice more after that. And I was like, this guy's a wizard when it comes to aiming. But now that I watch this back, they were both launched while we were still spotted. Anyways, I'm moving into position here to make sure we're going to capture B, even if this guy doesn't want it. I'm watching him pull forward thinking, this guy is actually going to sail through this again. I think he's like messing with me at this point in time because he almost captures it, and then I think he's going to shoot off there. But he does a good job here. He captures the base, and he goes on to lead our team in score. So I'm sure he had a pretty good game overall. It was just bizarre conceding the hundreds of points that we would have gotten had he captured the base when he first had the chance to do it. Pops the smoke here. Now, that's a very strong play in a lot of cases. If you're going to smoke up a friendly cruiser like that, but the Siegfried, I didn't write down the smoke fire penalty for the Siegfried, but again, with these battleship guns, you can see when we pull the trigger, we're basically getting spotted at 10 kilometers plus, which the cruisers that I have the smoke fire penalty written down for at tier 7, they're mostly in the 6 kilometer, 7 kilometer range. So if you're playing in the Siegfried in a division, the smoking up the cruiser play that's usually pretty strong isn't really as effective, at least not in those mid-range brawling situations. And you saw there a moment ago, we just got another Citadel on the mast, and we're going to be pumping out the damage on this Cleveland too. So more examples of how dangerous this ship is. Well, not if you whiff the shots like that, but if you aim them properly. Ooh, look out. The Cleveland's taking a lot of damage there. I'm trying to pull forward to get this island in between us to protect myself. But now I'm thinking to myself, this guy should be more afraid of me. The Cleveland is one of the most terrifying DPM monsters in the game. But, I think he should be just as afraid, if not more, of the Siegfried in that position than we should be of him. Anyways, we've got A now, we've got B. you know, basically check the map here. This is what I wanted to demonstrate is basically now we're in the middle of the map here and look at the map control. We can cover A, we can cover B, we can cover C. We got red ships off in Timbuktu, and we got a lot of blue ships following them off to the edge of the map. Those guys are all irrelevant in terms of the outcome of the game. They don't really understand how to win, or they don't care. They're just chasing damage. But when we're evaluating the game, irrelevant in terms of what matters. It's the ship's point. Draw an oval around A, B, and C. You know, that's kind of the. If you want to look at my blue ring, for instance, that's kind of the effective portion of the map. So that's where you should be focusing your attention. Don't be drawn off to the edge of the map. But if we get in these positions where we're basically in the middle of the map here, we can cover everything that matters. And we can drive these guys off. We got that Cleveland to the north that's running away. We got this Massachusetts who's clinging to life, and we're going to go ahead and take him down. But don't rush into these center positions as a cruiser, as a battleship, but look for opportunities to get in there, because once you've entrenched yourself in the middle like that, now we can control the map, we can keep them away from what matters, the objectives, and we really own the game at that point in time. So again, do it carefully, but have an eye towards getting in the middle of the map like this. So again, this is a pretty ho-hum game. I think we do the majority of the damage on this Cleveland. Not even quite double our ship's HP and damage, but we'll see at the end. You know, pretty effective. I think we get second place on the scoreboard. But I did want to, again, show this because, you know, the tendency for most players is to play the edge of the map or the edge of the effective zone. Again, you know, drawing some sort of circle around the caps. Whereas if you can get more centrally located safely, do it at the appropriate tempo, that's when you're going to start dominating the map control game. So that's why we went with that one. Siegfried, hopefully you picked up on my vibes. I mean, I really didn't expect to like this ship. I was thinking, you know, maybe we'll just see what happens with this campaign. Maybe we'll pursue it, maybe not. But now that I've played it enough, I'm getting pretty interested in the ship. And note what we're doing here. We got on C, and all we're doing is just stopping their accrual of points. You can see we're getting 6 points every 5 seconds. They're getting none. Now, we're going to end up pulling off of here because we're going to go for the kill. But just due to the fact that we got a 5-ship lead or a 4-ship lead, we got hundreds and hundreds of points. Doesn't really matter if we stay on that cap or not. It's going for some style points at that point in time. But you do want to always think to yourself, like, I can shoot the Cleveland while I'm on the cap, or I can shoot him sailing north. You know, does it really matter? At this point in time, no, it doesn't really matter. But if the game's tighter, if it's more closely contested, and I have the option to be on C and still attack this guy, or I have the option to not be on C and attack the guy, get on the cap. You know, it's very easy to. You will win way more games than maybe you often deserve to, just by having a focus on the caps, because everyone else is going to be playing the edge of the map. They're just going to be trying to kill each other. Meanwhile, if you get those hundreds and hundreds of points because you've been playing the caps, that's just going to tip the game in your favor time and time again. So anyway, that's a look at the Siegfried for you guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. We got lots of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions, comments, leave them below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And see y'all later. Peace.